Hey everyone, this is Luke again, and welcome back to my How Would I Improve Ninjago series, the series where I give my thoughts of how to improve every single Ninjago installment. So for today's episode, we're going to see how I would improve seasons 8, 9, and 10. Now, if you are an OG of this channel, you might remember that I made a video kind of similar to this. But this is the 2021-2022 version of that video, essentially, because that one video is like a year or two old. So, let's start with season 8. Now, I know that this is gonna piss people off, but if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of season 8. I actually consider the Oni and Dragon Trilogy to be the worst era of Ninjago, in my opinion, because that's the era where I just simply wasn't interested, and I didn't even give a shit about Ninjago at that point. So, bad timing. But, when I rewatched it after that point, it gave me sort of a clear mind on what was to go on. But even then, I just did not like how the season was set. The season was set up kinda weird, if I'm being honest. Um, Basically, it started out pretty good, and then it just kinda collapsed in on itself. A big no for me was the whole Lloyd and Harumi angle. I just simply did not care for it in the slightest. And if you're wondering why, it's because one, I think, well, I feel like when I first watched it, I did care, but as I rewatched it on and on and on, I just slowly started to lose interest in the arc as well. So the reason why I don't like this arc anymore is really big down to two things. One, I'm not a huge fan of Harumi, and two, I'm not a huge fan of Lloyd. So really, I could really have gave no shits about where the character direction was going to go because I did not care for either of their characters. I did not care for their characters to grow. So really, I just sort of rolled my eyes, essentially. I just didn't care. And you might think, well, you're just not being fair at that point. You didn't even give it a chance. Well, yeah, I did. Back when I rewatched it for the second time, I did give it a chance. It just kind of wore off every now and then. It just didn't stick to me, you know? So, I don't really care for this arc that much. And so what I would have done, if I had no choice to, actually, believe it or not, I would have kept this arc, but I would have not had a sort of romantic attraction between the two. I would have saw them as like maybe friends, maybe close friends, and then boom, stabbing in the back. Because I really like the idea of it. I like the idea of someone gaining your trust and stabbing you in the back, because that's a tried and trusted trope that's been in media for practically almost 100 years at this point. So I like the idea of it. I just think they went a step too far with trying to make it sort of like a boyfriend-girlfriend angle. I feel like had they not done that, it would have probably been way better. Because, again, I don't care about the freaking Larumi ship. It's not really that great of a ship anyway. So I would have just lessened the sort of impact a little bit of the arc itself. And keep in mind, I'm not changing who the focus is. So, because that would basically change the entire season as a whole. So I'm keeping with the focus. So Lloyd's focus. And another big issue I had with season 8 is that the SOG really were just a weak-ass army. But the plot basically spoon-fed them a win over the ninja. And it really makes the ninja losing look almost pathetic, essentially. Like, they've beaten the Overlord twice. They've beaten, basically, a master crime lord in Chen. They've beaten ghosts. And they beat a frickin' pirate Jin. And basically, their Ninjago's version of time gods. But they somehow can't beat a biker gang? That's incredibly unrealistic. I understand that they were trying to make it a little bit more real, But they should have done that in the early days of Ninjago if they wanted to do that. Um, why would they do it now? I have no idea. And it just really felt too perfect, in my opinion, for the SOG to just. It felt way too convenient for them to get like slight advantages over the ninja, and it just felt like an uneven match, essentially. Whereas at least with the other villains, they at least felt like they were almost on an even playing field in a way, where the villain starts off as a big bad, but then as you the season slowly progresses, the ninja have a much better shot. Whereas with this, it's sort of the opposite, where the ninja got a worse and worse shot as you went on. Now, I'm gonna switch over to the redesigns because I know that was a huge controversy back in the day, but I can understand why a lot of people didn't like these redesigns. You ever heard old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Well, that's why I believe a lot of people dislike this change, because there was no need to. There was no need to change up the designs in their minds. So this is my thought process when, having this dynamic of the struggle between the ninja and the main villain. They kind of flipped the script in a sense of what to expect, but sometimes flipping the script doesn't always work. And I feel like this is one of those cases where it just didn't work. So I would have so as for the SOG, I would have given them a little bit of an edge, but but nothing that makes them drastically different from the other villains. Um, I did like the idea, though, of them just being a simple biker gang, but having a large amount of advantages. But I just think they kind of, again, went a little too far. And I feel like that's the biggest problem I had with Season 8, is that they kind of went a little too far with some elements. And we're going to do a little brief segment on the Zane and Mystery. Mystery should have been Echo Zane. That I would have immediately went with that. Because, again, why set him up as a robot if you're not going to exploit it? That breaks in a theatrical principle known as Chekhov's gun. If you don't know what Chekhov's gun is, it's a theatrical principle originated by, well, I think it was a Russian playwright named something Chekhov. I think it was Anton Chekhov, I think it was. I might have gotten the name wrong, but that's what I remember in my head. But he basically said this: if you bring a gun on a shelf in the first act, it must be fired in the second or third. It's basically saying, don't bring up a detail if the detail is not going to pay off. Basically, don't provide something if there's going to be no payoff to it, essentially. Which I feel like they sort of messed that up with Mr. E's identity. And I feel like the excuse, it really came off as an excuse of what the Hackmans said. And it really came off as an excuse because I feel like they easily could have done it, but they just chose the whole wussy route where it's like, oh, but we have to reintroduce Skybound again. I'm like, there's a thing called doing that off screen. Or just add another 1 or 2 episodes. Plain and simple. You didn't have to do it all in one. You could just exploit that for a couple of episodes. Whatever. So, yeah. And then everything seemed fine. And then I'm going to go to my biggest criticism of Season 8. Bringing back Garmadon. This was a dumb move. I have no idea what the hell the team was thinking. I understand why they did it because of the movie, but Garmadon, just because Garmadon showed up in the movie does not mean he has to show up in that particular season. To me, it came across as saying movie fans do not rewatch the older seasons of Ninjago before they went to this one, which is incredibly stupid generalization of those types of fans, because some of them do, some of them do not. Now, for those you do not, what were you doing, essentially? Why would you watch the movie and not watch the older seasons? I don't understand, but that's your choice, so I'm gonna have to respect that. But, anyways, they should have at least thought about this. The whole Lloyd and Garmadon dynamic was basically perfection. It was written so well, to the point, especially Garmadon's side, where even though he was evil, he still loved his son no matter what, and that was the one thing that sort of made the human version of Garmadon and the evil version of Garmadon basically parallel. This was actually shown in, I think, one episode of Decoded, where they had to figure out what was the thing in common between Master Garmadon and Lord Garmadon. And honestly, Season 8 Garmadon just straight up sucked. Even, I mean, to be fair, he only appeared in 2 episodes, but still. This decision was definitely bad. So what I would have done was end the season on Dredd on arrival. If they had no choice to bring back, if they had no choice, that's okay. Don't bring him back immediately. Basically what I would have done is end season 8 on Dredd on arrival with the hand sticking out of the thing. Even if the whole ritual at the end was very convenient, even if it was a convenient moment, it still would have left a terrifying sort of aura around that ending. And I feel that it would have made a much more stronger ending, because honestly those last 2 episodes kind of just crammed everything together. It honestly felt like a different season to me, those last 2 episodes. You could have just waited for those episodes to be put into season 9. That's what I would have done. So yeah, that's what I would have changed with season 8. Now with season 9, as I said before, that my version would have been basically season 9, but with the extra 2 episodes from season 8. So if we do that, then almost nothing would change with a plot line. Well, maybe with one thing. I would have made Garmadon's rise to power a little bit slower. Not exactly too slow. I would have said maybe 4 episodes. Because the fact that he rose to power in like 1.25 episodes, 1.5, that's way too quick. I was thinking maybe 3 or 4 episodes to gain power, essentially. That way, there's a lot more, it feels more relaxed, and, it actually feels natural. Now, this is probably going to be the longest section, but my biggest criticism of Hunted is the dual story, the double storylines. This did not work at all for me personally. It just made the seasons very hard to watch, because it basically kind of shuffles through one storyline to the other. And I think I explained this in another video called Why I Think They Should Have Been Split into 2 parts. But to summarize that video, what I would have done is basically have Hunted be in 2 parts. Hunted Part 1 and Hunted Part 2. Hunted Part 1 is the first realm, because a big problem with having 2 storylines simultaneously is that they're kind of fighting against each other for screen time. So one may get more attention than the other, which leads to one storyline looking really good with the other one looking incredibly bad. And I think that's what happened here for me personally. The Resistance storyline was great. It was the main focal point because it's the one that carried over from season 8, and it was great. But the First Realm storyline, on the other hand, it was pretty terrible, because there was barely any screen time for the First Realm storyline. And even though it had a good villain in Iron Baron, again, there was not enough screen time for it. It didn't fully what's the word? It didn't fully grow as a installment. It had the ability to work as an individual installment, but unfortunately they decided to cram it into one and basically kind of make it so that it's somewhat forgettable. So what I would have done is split them apart, because honestly each storyline felt like their own season entirely. But I wouldn't really change that much of the plot for either of them. Um, so for basically Hunted Part 1 is the Resistance, and then basically around the halfway point, right where Lessons of a Master, when they go through the rift, they would put a to be continued. Oh, jump back to season 8. If I had no choice of changing, episodes 83 or 84, put a to be continued at episode 84, because, or well, in my version there would be a to be continued after episode 82, because if you want to imply that the stories flow into each other and it's going to be one overarching story, you have to say that. Otherwise, people are not going to understand. At least that's how I operate. You can't just say, "Oh, it's like this," and expect me to understand. You have to actually tell me. You have to explain it to me. You can't just tell it to me and expect me to know it, because that's incredibly stupid of you to think that. And I think that was an incredibly bad move on the creative team's part. So back to season 9, Hunted Part 2 is the Resistance, and when all seems lost, here come the 4OG Ninja back here again. So basically the only thing I would change in the actual storylines for the Resistance, I wouldn't really change a thing. But for the first round, what I would have changed really is one minor thing, and that was actually have the dragon armor control Firstborn. Maybe not control as the armor has like but maybe control as in sort of like a psychic sort of control, like it kind of like how the storm amulets with Wojira did. Something similar to that, where it actually serves a purpose. Because I don't like it when they show in objects, but then they don't serve a purpose. It's like, why would you do that, essentially? And yeah, that's basically it for Hunted. So for Marchignoni, you're probably gonna expect this to come out of my mouth. More episodes. 4 episodes just isn't enough. It just isn't. Unless those 4 episodes were like 45 minutes long or something, then maybe they could have BS their way through that. But 422s is just not enough. It's like at least 6 episodes would have made more sense. Because, if you want the season to be short, fine. But you gotta have that story fully fleshed out. Otherwise, it's gonna end up being a rushed mess. And why I said 2 specifically is that a lot of fans wanted to hear episode 100, and when that was never happened, people were so disappointed, because then they removed the number counter, which I think was an incredibly dumb decision by the creative team. Because what's wrong? It's like YouTube removing the dislikes. What purpose does it serve? It serves no purpose other than to aggravate us, essentially. I can understand why they were thought of it, because they were thinking of the children, but that's like the most Karen response ever. Think of the children. I can give no fucks about the children, essentially. Give no fucks about the children. I understand it's a kid's show and whatnot, but they shouldn't have to be overwhelmed by episode numbers. If they are, that's their problem, not yours. Alright? It reminds me of how a lot of parents blame YouTubers for like their actions. Like, I'm not here to be like a guardian or a babysitter. It's like, raise your own goddamn kids, alright? Alright, I'm getting off topic. Back to season 10. Anyways, where was I at? Yeah, basically, more episodes. So yeah, more episodes would have worked a lot better. It would make the whole thing, feel more natural, and, Oh, I just remembered. Cole's fall. what was the purpose of it? Just get rid of it entirely. When the first time I watched it, it was emotional as heck. Don't get me wrong. The music is really good, by the way. But that's probably the only good thing about that scene when I think about it now. It's just, what purpose does it serve? He doesn't die. He doesn't gain anything out of it. It's just there to waste time. So get rid of it entirely. Also, have Zane do something this season, please. Nia already had something with the Jay and Nia proposal. She doesn't need two things. Alright? Zane should have been the one to make the mistake. Especially considering he's the smart one, and usually the smart one does not make mistakes, right? Well, prove you wrong. The smart ones do make mistakes from time to time. And even though it would have continued their relationship, especially since they had a good bonding in season 4, it would have continued that. I remember I wrote a little thing about I wouldn't say fanfic, but sort of my own take on this topic. And it was kind of dark, if I be honest, where I even, at one point, this is hard for me to say, I even wrote a point where Zane attempted to commit suicide. Yeah, that's how dark it was. But anyways, I don't know what happened to that file. I don't even know if I still have it or whatnot. But anyways, so also the Jay and Nia yin yang proposal thing. Why does it need to exist anyway? Just get rid of it. But then again, at least it gives Jay and Nia something to do, so I'm a little conflicted on this. I would say that maybe they would actually get full-on married in that season. Full-on married instead of just, oh, we are together sort of thing. It's like, yeah, we know you're together. You've been together for like 10 years at that point. You might as well fully become a couple, essentially. I understand it's baby steps, but like, come on, just fully tie the knot. Come on. But then again, I don't know if marriage is allowed at a kid show. But to be fair, a lot of things that the creative team, a lot of things in kid shows that shouldn't be allowed are allowed. So who knows? Also, if Endings was supposed to be the final episode, let's just say this. If it was supposed to be the final episode, end it with a bang. I don't feel that it ended truly on a bang. I remember a lot of people said that, oh, they don't hate Marching Alien as a whole, they just hate this particular episode. I think even Daily made a video about this I think it was called How One Episode Changed Everything. And he showed like a little line graph of 95. It felt like the episodes got better, and then here comes episode 98 to ruin everything. Just go like that. It was just like madness, man. So if it was supposed to be on a final episode, end it with a bang. Also, give Omega and the Onis a little bit more backstory. You don't have to necessarily give them a personality, especially when they're evil. They're super evil. Also, make them at least, if you wanted to go with the Tornado creation, fine. But, like, it shouldn't wipe out the entire Oni army. Because why? How does that work? In what universe does that shit work? Only one universe does that work in. The universe of plot convenience. It had good cinematography, though. Let me think. I don't think there's really much else. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. Lloyd should have died. Honestly, I really didn't understand why they went with a fake-out death of not only Cole, but with Lloyd too. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, essentially. Basically. It's like, why? Just, if you want to I feel like Lloyd's character at that point had nowhere else to go. There was essentially nothing else for the character to do. The Green Ninja prophecy was over. Sure, he may have had trauma from Harumi, but it was never acknowledged in season 10. So in my mind, I thought he got over it. And, I'll talk about this in the next part where I talk about Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu. But I feel like he should have died because, in my mind, from a plot standpoint, it made perfect sense. I mean, he was the Green Ninja, he was the savior, and now he died protecting his friends, protecting his homeland, and, it would have been an emotional sacrifice, really. Hell, if he died, I might have actually shed a tear because Lloyd has been part of the crew for like ages at that point. So to see him die and for real, oh my god! But then again, death in kid shows is very frowned upon. So what do I know? Um, but then there is the whole talk about continuing quote unquote Lloyd's arc from 8 to 9. But anyways, that's gonna be in Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu. But but I know what you're about to say for the Lloyd part. But Luke, Lloyd is part of the main Ninja cast, like you said. He's basically the icon of the series. That would have been way too risky of a move. I can see that, why you would think that, because it is a big, risky move for LEGO to do that. To basically kill off one of their popular characters, especially one that does really well in sets. So I would understand that from like a marketing and business perspective, but the whole point of a business, in my opinion, is to take risks. You can't be a business if you don't take risks. Some risks work and some risks work out. And Lego is $1 billion business anyway. It's not like Lloyd killing them off is going to send them immediately to bankruptcy. I'd be damned to hell if that happened. But I doubt that would happen, though. I feel like they could find someone else to not replace him, but as Andrew Francis would say, step in for him. Because I believe Ninjago at that point was basically a franchise. It became more than Lego, essentially. So to expand further upon it, like bringing a new series, one that maybe doesn't star Lloyd, is definitely possible. Eventually, the franchise is going to have to do that, and now that would have been the perfect time to do so, but they just didn't do it. But that's just my personal take on it. But anyways, that is the episode. I talked for way too long. I am so incredibly sorry for this incredibly long video. But that is how would I improve from seasons 8, 9, and 10, the Oni and Dragon trilogy. Tell me in the comments below, what would you improve about the Oni and Dragon trilogy? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel by clicking on the red subscribe button, and click on the notification bell to see every video that I will upload. And I'll see all you folks in the next video. Bye-bye!